Sis stays buying books. I am sis. Sis is me. Bonjour, mon petit chifle. Amber here, and hi. Have new hair. To some of you, this might. Don't think my hair has been out in a video in a very long time, but when it was, this wasn't it. We did a thing. She gone. That's not what we're here for today, even though like I'm really feeling this short hair. Okay, so sorry. That's not what we're here for today. Like I said, today, oh, I feel weird. I need my rings. So I put out a tweet like a month or so ago saying something along the lines of I don't know, I was asking if people were still interested in seeing a book haul for the books that I have acquired during the first half of the year, and I was going to say a bunch, but I got, for my Twitter interactions, a bunch of people who still were like, film it, do the thing. So that's what we're here for. Today I'm filming the first book haul I've filmed in a very long time. I think the last time I did a book haul was like 2-3 years ago when I did that Harry Styles book haul. I will say before I get started, 2 things. One, since we've been in lockdown, I've been like, my book buying, I've been stress shopping a lot, and books are my go-to for that. I think for me, all books have always been like a comfort thing, not just reading them, just having them. And growing up, it was like the thing I looked forward to. My mom would like be like, if you're good, when I get paid, we'll go to the bookstore. I still hold on to that. When I need a pick-me-up, I buy some books. I don't have any space for the books. I need to stop talking because we have 6 months of books to work through. I'm doing January through June. I also want to say that because I've mentioned before that I don't have the book storage that I would love to have, so I'm working on a tiny bookcase, and the rest of my books that I have here are in various little nooks and containers and whatnot. And then there are also a bunch of books that I have in like an actual storage unit. So some of the books that I will be mentioning I don't have with me, so I'll be, hopefully if I remember in editing, including the covers here. Let's get started. I have my reading journal because I keep track of the books I haul and unhaul each month. Okay. Also, I know when people do this, they do them in a particular order. I'm literally just going to be telling you the books in the order that I acquired them. So the first book that I bought this year in January was Reverie by Ryan Lasalla. Love Ryan so much. I'm not going to talk too much, but I got an ARC for Reverie the day I met Ryan at Books of Wonder, and so I'd been like so anticipating getting it. Went to the Philly book tour stop. Best time ever. One of my favorite book events I've ever been to. But like I said, love Ryan. He has been such a supporter of my writing. So I have Reverie. That day I also, I'm not going to talk about the synopses really, not too much, because I have a lot of books to work through. So next I got Nevernight by J. Kristoff. And then very shortly after, I found out what type of person J. Kristoff is, and I no longer really want to, I no longer want to have this book. I spent my money on this one, so I'm probably still going to read it. I know a lot of people love it and hype it up. The males here, J. Kristoff is not a great person, so maybe I shouldn't read the book, because if I like it, I will not be purchasing the other ones in the series. Okay, so I also got same day. Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. I read this book, I finally got around to reading it in June and I loved it. It's about a young girl who is kind of navigating being at a new school and the concept of being in a relationship and sex when she is HIV positive. I have packages. Please hold. Okay, I'm back. In January, I received Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim in my January Owlcrate. So this is the Owlcrate exclusive. I don't remember what this is about. I mean, I already said I'm not really going to go into too many details about the synopses, but I also haven't really heard too many people talk about this since it's been out, but I'm going to have to read to see. Try to figure out when I'm going to get around to this. Then, I believe this is the Fairy Loot edition. Yeah, in my January Fairy Loot, I received Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This cover is gorgeous. I love it so much, and I still can't believe I haven't read this book yet. I in fact have 2 copies. I have the, I have the original cover and the Fairy Loot cover. Got them both in January, obviously. Definitely need to get around to this. Just got in my most recent Fairy Loot. Was it Fairy Loot? Yeah. Some magnetic bookmarks that go with the cover of this book. Oh, I'm sorry it's so loud outside. I don't know what my street's doing today. So next, in January, I also picked up A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kimmerer, which is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I had to finally just go ahead and get it from Barnes & Noble because I was supposed to go to the book tour for this. The closest stop was Wilmington in Delaware, but I ended up just not going that day. I do that a lot. I panic cancel things a lot, so finally got it because I loved the first book so much. I enjoyed this book, but I didn't love it as much as I loved the first book, nor how much I wanted to, but Gray is my favorite character in the series, so I loved my boy getting his things, and I can't wait for the final book, which comes out next year. Is it next year? Yeah, the beginning of next year. So that's A Vow So Something and Deadly, I think. Bold, Vow So Bold and Deadly. And that's obviously, like I said, the final book. Everything's happening at once. We get like 4 POVs. Great. Okay, so the next book I got in January, I think I might have gotten these. Did I get these the same day? I might have. It's The Gray Shear by Kim Leggett. And I really need to get around to reading this. This has been on several TBRs throughout the year and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It sounds like it's going to be so good, like feministy, sort of dystopian. I also really love the cover. Who knows, September might be the month that I read this book. I don't know, we'll see. So I was sent, in January I was sent an ARC of The Last Confession of Autumn Casterly by Meredith Tate, and I was sent this from Penguin Teen. Thank you so much, Penguin Teen. I'm a Penguin Teen influencer. It came out in February, but I was sent this in January, obviously. Thank you, Penguin. So the last 2 books I picked up in anticipation for Blackathon in February, and the first one is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I started reading this in February and I just couldn't get into it at the time, so I've put it down and I've yet to pick it back up. I think I'm sort of intimidated by the book. I desperately want to read it because I hear nothing but amazing things about this book and this series and this author. And the last one is The Weight of the Stars by Kate Ankrum, which I did read in February and I loved it so much. It was such a pleasant surprise. I did not expect to love it as much as I did. I cried for a very good chunk of the end of the book, and it's definitely made its way to my top books of the whole year, which means I need to now go back and read, what is Leslie Odom Jr. doing? Go back and read The Wicker King, which each book is a standalone, but they're set in the same world, and there are characters from The Wicker King in The Weight of the Stars. So, and I also hear amazing things about that. So, okay, moving right along to February. February is a little easier. I only acquired 3 books in February. Was I okay? The first one was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which, as we know, is the sequel to All the Boys I Loved Before. I bought the book because the movie had just come out. When the first All the Boys movie came out, I hadn't read any of the books yet, and then I read the first one after the movie, which goes against everything that I believe in. I will wait to read the book before I consume this adaptation, girl. But this time I didn't. And so I just kind of stuck with the tradition. I watched the movie first and then read the book to see the differences. I like the movies more, I will say. It could be because I'm late to the series. I'm a lot older. I don't know. I just feel like I would have appreciated it more maybe if I read it a little younger. It's still really cute, and I still intend to read the third one after the third movie comes out. We gotta stick to tradition. Also, Team John Ambrose till I die, Team Jordan Fisher. And then please hold on. Should I show you my little setups, my haul page for each month? That's January. So for February, my book of the month, this is back when book of the month still had their little YA branch off, and I for a minute was like a book of the month. Were they influenced? Whatever they were called for a second. This was also before all of that mess with book of the month. I've canceled my subscription. I know that they are actively working to like better the situation and be more inclusive and uplift diverse authors. So maybe one day, if I want to give it time to actually see how they put their plan into action and whatever before I decide if I'm going to resubscribe. Also, your girl needs to save a little bit of money. But anyway, the next 2 books are actually the same. My book of the month YA pick was All the Stars and Teeth by Allan Grace. Read it, enjoyed it, can't wait for book 2. Princess fighting to claim her throne with this power that she doesn't really understand. Pirates, mermaids, yes. And also in February, All the Stars and Teeth was the Owlcrate book. So I have multiple copies. I think I have 3 copies in total of that book. So that was February. That's my February spread for my books hauled. Okay, moving right along to March. First book on my list for February, I guess it was the first book I acquired in February, was the Fairy Loot edition of The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. I think, is this the book that is described as like a, I'm just gonna say it, Slytherin Hufflepuff relationship? I don't know. Not that that matters anymore. But at the time, that was a very huge selling point on getting me to want to read this book. I still want to read it. I don't hear a ton of people talk about this either right now, but I love this cover. Purple is my favorite color. This purple-black combo is really doing it for me. Great. Lifting those books has me winded. Okay, so the next book is the March Owlcrate book, and it was The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, which this is becoming a game of which books has Amber actually read. That one really piques my interest because it's like the story of Mozart's sister. Fun fact, I am a big Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart fan. There was a time in my life where most of the music I listened to was actually just like classical music, and being in choir all through school, we sung a lot of classical, more opera, Mozart work, whatever, doesn't matter. So a story about the Mozart family and like his sister and her making her own place, her own story, her own world. Okay, next we have My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I was hearing a lot of praise for this book, even though it's a very dark, triggering book. I know there are like trigger warnings for, I think it's like pedophilia, sexual, is it assault? I know grooming is a big topic of the book. It follows a girl who I think years later is facing, I think it alternates timelines. When the girl was in high school, I believe, and had a relationship, not a relationship at all, but at the time that's what she saw it as, with her teacher. And then it's like years later she's an adult and dealing with all that. I think that's what it's about. But this was all over the bookternet, and I was like, yeah, I need it in my life. I've also been trying to read more adult books this year. That was a goal of mine, not just my YA fantasy. So I think this is another one that's been on so many TBRs throughout this year. I need to, there are not enough months in the year to read books. All the rest of these for March were acquired at the same time from the book company that we will not talk about, that deems me as unfamily friendly. Anyway, the first one is another adult book. I found that I have been sort of getting into like adult mystery thrillers, horror books, and so I picked up The Whisper Man by Alex North. I'm really intrigued by this cover, and the premise sounds really interesting. So it's like, I think this is like a horror mystery. This follows a man who he brings his son to this town that has like this dark past, where I think the Whisper Man Lord, my God, pick an accent, Amber. Children like into the woods or something and kill them, and then he's like become an urban legend or something, and then it's like what happens when his son starts hearing the whispers or something like that. One day I'll read it. I hope it doesn't let me down. Next in that haul, I picked up The Crown's Fate by Evelyn and Skye, which is the sequel to The Crown's, did I say The Crown's Fate? Yeah, which is the sequel to The Crown's Game, which I read last year at the end of was it the end of 2019? Or was it the end of 2018? I read it. I didn't love it. It didn't really meet the potential that I thought it had, but it's a duology, and I want to find out what happens next. The end of the book did intrigue me enough to want to know what happens next, so here we are. Another series that both of these are actually included in the series I need to finish video that I uploaded recently. The link will be down below. It's The Dire King by William Ritter, which is the final book. This is the final book, right? In the Jacoby series. I have read the first two and I really enjoy them. It's a really fun series, quick, fun reads. It reminds me of a much, much lighter version of the Stalking Jack the Ripper books. In fact, I think I read the Jacoby around the same time that I read Stalking Jack the Ripper, and because I didn't like Stalking Jack the Ripper the first time I read it, but I loved Jacoby. I've since whatever, I am on better terms with that series now, but I love these books and I need to finish the final two and see what shenanigans these two get up to. If you want to know why I keep looking over here, Casper's on my TV. I have it muted. I'm really in a spooky mood right now. I know we're in the middle of August, but to me it's Halloween. I just want it to be fall. I'm over the heat. I'm over the summer. I'm ready for it to be spooky season. For me, I'll say we have 2 weeks until spooky season starts for me. For me, spooky season starts on my birthday. Anywho, so next I picked up in that haul The Antidote by Shelley Sakier. I remember this was on my like anticipated reads list the year it came out. I think it's about a girl who, I think she has like some sort of healing magic, but I think it's forbidden until her best friend, who's like the crown prince, falls ill and she has to save him, I think. I also got Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. I picked this book. I'm not really like a YA contemporary reader, unless it's usually usually when I read a YA contemporary, it's like a heavier topic of the book. But EBooks was raving about this like frequently, so I just figured I'd give it a try. The premise did sound really interesting to me. I also think this cover is fun. I figured why not step away from my comfort zone and try something. Who knows, I might enjoy it. It also looks like it'll be a quick read if I ever get around to it. Next I have Spectacle by Jody Lynn Zrock. And this one also has a stalking Jack the Ripper vibe. I believe the main character has like premonitions or something about the victims of this Jack the Ripper-esque serial killer. So that kind of sounded really interesting and intriguing. And the last book that I got, it's not the last book that I got in this haul or in February, but there are some books that I have acquired that I am not talking about yet. They're for a very specific video that I'm almost ready to film. Last book that I'm going to talk about for February is The Doll Maker of Krakow by R.M. Romero, which is like a YA historical fiction. It takes place during World War II, during the Holocaust. I think it's like about this doll that comes to our world during the Holocaust. And when I'm saying that, that sounds really strange. Let's move on to March. April. What month? April. Oh, in case you were wondering, this is my books hauled and unhauled page. My theme for March was Sailor Moon. What did I get in April that I can talk about? Okay, so the first book that I can talk about right now that I got in April was another book of the month pick. By this point they had gone back to their standard adult format, and the book I chose was The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. It actually wasn't one of the picks for the month. I wasn't interested in any of the picks for the month, but that was like an option. That one was also an option that I just chose instead, and I really enjoyed it. Another adult, obviously I said that, like mystery, but there was like a paranormal element, and you know I love a paranormal element. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the other underlying messages in the story. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Okay, so in April I got my first copy. I think, did the book come out in April also? Or did it come out? Yeah, I did. I got my first of 6 copies of Redemption Prep by Samuel Miller, who is one of my favorite people on the earth. 6 copies, Amber. I know. Hear me out. Sam and I have been friends for ages, and I kind of ride or die for my friends, right? So this is his second book. I am proud AF. Also, at the time when I was pre-ordering books, I pre-ordered from Amazon. I have since really drastically cut back on my Amazon orders. I tried to avoid Amazon as much as possible, but I hadn't canceled my pre-order, and I'm glad, because this is the only copy that came when the book came out. When I was pre-ordering, we obviously didn't know that COVID was going to be a thing. That was not on the bingo card for 2020. So I didn't think that like the rest of my copies would be so delayed, so this is the only one that showed up on time. And I also, obviously I'll mention them again because like they came throughout the months, but I pre-ordered because he was going on tour. He was going on the book tour. I was going to 2 stops on the book tour, so I pre-ordered the books for the 2 dates, one for me and one for my mom. So technically I have 4 copies, my mom has 2. And then he did a thing with Good Choice Reads or whatever it's called, and he was doing signed copies with the like little pre-order journal, and I wanted the journal. So yeah, this was a lot different than his first book, but it was an adventure, a wild ride. Okay, so this is my favorite part of Casper. All right, Devon Sawa. So I also picked up Soul of the Sword by Julie Kagawa, which is the sequel to Shadow of the Fox. I don't know why I almost said The Wrath of the Dawn. That's wrong. It's the sequel to The Shadow of the Fox, which I just finished reading the final book, Night of the Dragon, which destroyed me. I have not recovered, but this series is absolutely in my top favorite series of all time. I've fallen in love. I'm head over heels with this series. I need more people to read it. Julie Kagawa is... Why are we not hyping her books up? I know she has like other series. I read The Iron King like a millennia ago, and can I keep you? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Little me is like inside like, oh. Anywho, stop watching TV and get back to this. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, and now I need to go back and read the whole series because I love her writing so much. This book, read the books, please. Do me a favor, do you a favor, pick up this series. I am currently working on doing a set of candles inspired by this series. I am in love. And then the last book I picked up, I bought in April, was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and I got that to read for the Asian readathon in May. That was the group book, and I also enjoy that more than I thought I was going to. It wasn't like a really like a thriller or horror. It was just like a work of, is that literary fiction? I don't know. I'm glad I read the book right before I watched the show, because the show did change quite a bit. Also loved the show. The end, bless. That's not at all, in case you're wondering. The theme for April was travel, because I was supposed to be in Vancouver in April, but I'm not gonna talk about it too much. Okay, let's move on to May. This is when the piles get bigger, but we only have 2 more months to go. And the first book that I acquired in May was The Book of Longings from Sumont Kid. This is the Book of the Month edition. I picked this book, one, because Sumont Kid is the author of The Secret Life of Bees, which is a book that I love. Always loved that book, so I was very interested to read another one of her books. I think I have her other book, one of her other books, The Mermaid Chair or something. I haven't read it yet, but this was also like the story of basically what happened if Jesus had a wife, first of all, and this wife's basically a feminist in the biblical days. Sign me up. I need to read this book, actually. I need to read this book ASAP, because did I write this book? If you ask my mom, this is something that I would 100% write, so I need to 100% read it. So the next 3 books are all by the same author, and I picked them up back when, was it Mackenzie Lee was out here doing like color by number, signing other people's books with, and like one of the authors that was like would be really harmed by this was Ren Chipico. If you missed that one, you missed it. So I ran to support Ren and bought 3 of their books. First one is The Suffering, which is the sequel to The Girl in the Well, the Girl from the Well, which I read back when, I read this years ago. I read that book years ago when I really started like transitioning into a mostly bookish channel, and I really enjoyed it. It's like a YA horror. It's inspired by, what's the ghost from, or the spirit from the, is it The Ring or The Grudge? It's inspired by like Japanese urban legends. Main characters possessed by her like soul's been tied to a demon or something like that, if I remember correctly. And like I said, this is the sequel. I very much want to know what happens next in the story. So like I didn't really need a reason to continue. I'm glad I was finally like, all right, let's bite the bullet, let's get these books. Next I picked up the Bone Witch I was supposed to say also by Ranch Pico. I don't really remember what this is about, but I really like this cover. And then also, I think this is their most recent book, The Never Tilting World. I know there's also one that was in, the arc was in one of my Owlcrate boxes. That was the most recent one, but this is like the one that came out right before that one, I think. Next, we finally got the first book of a series that I'm very, very late to and have fallen very much in love with, and it's The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I finally read this last month, I believe. Y'all really let me just go without reading this book. Are you okay? I needed to finally read it because I had pre-ordered the Fairy Loot special edition set and the Fae Crate Hangover Recovery box, which is what was just delivered when the postman was here. And I'm like, I have these pre-orders, I should, you know, read the books so I could, especially for the Fae Crate box, so I know what's going on in the box. So I'm not going to open it until I finish the series. Oh, is this like a Halloween marathon? What's going on? I'm not complaining, but I love this series, or this book. I haven't started the second one yet, but I love this book so much. Also, these covers are gorgeous. Oh, and I said that because the final one just came out, so that's why I pre-ordered all the things. That's why all the things were coming out. All right, next is the next book I got. I have several copies of, and it's Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova, and this is the first of a brand new series by Zoraida. She is the author of the Brujas of Brooklyn series, which I need to catch up on. The final one's about to come out in September. This one I pre-ordered from Q and Willow Books, and is this one's signed and personalized. Love that. I love this cover. The story sounds so cool and I can't wait to read it. I really enjoyed Labyrinth Lost. That's the only one I've read so far. Like I said, I need to catch up, and I'm curious to see the difference, like what's going. I like to see how, I want to see how her writing has grown, is what I'm saying. All right, what's next? That's next. Next, another book I got in May was my most anticipated read of the entire year. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is the Hunger Games prequel about President Coriolanus Snow that I didn't ask for. I just finished reading this. I read this book last month also, right after The City of Brass. And I had a lot of thoughts. There's a full spoilery reading vlog that I'll link below. Also, now's not the place to talk about this, but I read it and I have it. That's what the naked cover looks like. But I love the Hunger Games, and we know this. We know this. We could have had Phoenix book or Haymitch. The next book that I got in May, it's May, we're talking about May, right? Yeah, was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I love Elizabeth Acevedo's books so much, so much. I haven't read this one yet. I was meaning to read this during Pride Month and I didn't get around to it, but maybe I'll read this in September. Who knows? One of the main draws for me is that it follows two half-sisters, and kind of, I think that a lot of the stories, like them, one, learning about each other and then like navigating, like, hey, we're sisters now, and that's relatable to me. I have a sister who is my dad's daughter, and we didn't meet until she's my younger sister, so we didn't meet until she was like 16. But yeah, this one is also told in verse like the Poet X, which I adore, so I can't wait to get around to this. I also received the Fairy Loot edition of Incendiary, which was beautiful. I loved it. Didn't I get the Owlcrate? Wasn't that the month that it was both the same? I don't know. I know I have the Alcrate and Fairy Loot editions of Incendiary. But then the last book that I bought, or that I didn't, well, I pre-ordered it and it arrived in May, was The Archer at Dawn by Swati Teerdala, which is the sequel to Tiger at Midnight, which is another severely underrated book series that I don't hear anyone but me talking about. I loved the first book. So I'm super excited to see where the story goes from here and to see what Esha and Kunal are up to, especially after the way the book ended and what we were kind of, the path we were put on at the end of the first book. Also, we love how shiny this is. Okay, let's jump into the biggest of these piles, June. We got a little out of hand in June. I'll say, oh, this is the May book called Spread, based around like the Asian readathon and sort of Asian themes for that. Where is my list? Okay, go through this big ol' list. So the first book that arrived in June was this, the Waterstones edition of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Why is it so much thicker than the regular edition? What's going on here? It's heavy. So yes, I ordered this all the way from the UK. Why? Because I'm Hunger Games trash, first of all, and two, because one, the end pages are really cool, but mostly because I love the naked cover. That's stunning. So even despite my feelings about the book itself, that's gorgeous, and one day I'm going to have a bookcase to properly display that on and give it the shine it deserves, because there's a lot going on in this book, but at least that's right. At least that is right. Oh, there's a reader's guide in here also. So I got this chunky boy. Going with stunning books. This A Song of Wraiths in Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, which I'm hoping to get around to read before August is done. This is on my TBR for this month. This book is absolutely gorgeous, and I've heard nothing but the highest of praise about this book so far, and I hope that it lives up to the hype. I feel that it does. I feel in my soul that it deserves every ounce of hype. This is so beautiful, this cover. I can't deal with it. Oh my god. Okay, so I briefly mentioned this book a moment ago because I was talking about the book that came out right before the previous book in the series, Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa, which is the final book in the Shadow of the Fox series. I finished reading this like a couple days ago and I have not recovered. I have been absolutely wrecked. I cried for a good chunk of the book. Here's a picture in case you think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I spent most of this book texting Brittany from Ellen and Eclectic, just screaming and crying, and just because she finished it before I did, and she warned me. She's like, this book's gonna hurt you, and I'm like, okay. I was warned, and even though I was warned, I wasn't prepared. This book hurt me. It's small, but it packs a punch and a kick to the ribs. Julie, I want to talk. Just also, I deserve an adaptation of this book. I deserve it. I deserve it. I also deserve a novella or two. If you read the book, you should know why I demand a novella. Let me move on. This isn't the place to talk about this. I'll talk about it more in my, what month is this? August wrap up. Okay, so next. The next book that I acquired in June was They Went Left by Monica Hess, who is also the author of Girl in the Blue Coat, which I also recently got, but I'm not going to talk about it just now. It's a World War II historical fiction, which, if I don't know if I've mentioned it, there was a time where that's all I really read, like middle school, high school. I love historical fiction. You might be surprised to hear that, considering that mostly what I read is YA fantasy. This just really, just something about it. It's about, from what I recall, it's like this girl who survives, is it Auschwitz? Yeah, she survives Auschwitz-Birkenau, and after release, she is set to find her brother, who is the only surviving member of her family. The rest of her family was sent to the gas chambers when they arrived. And this sounds like it's gonna be heartbreaking, but it sounds like it just sounds like it's gonna be so good. Am I okay? Okay, my battery is flashing, so I'm gonna try before it dies to get as many books possible. So next I got 2 books from Book of the Month. I couldn't choose between 2, so I just added the second one to my box. The first one is The Vanishing Half by Brett Bennett, which I've heard really good things about. I know it's set in the South. It's set in the Deep South, and it covers like multi-generations. I know it's about 2 sisters. I think they're twins who are white passing, and one sister kind of leans into that and disconnects herself from her blackness, and I think she has to return to her town, and her sister who is very much black. So that sounds like it's going to be like a very interesting conversation about like race and colorism. I've heard really good things about this book. And then with that, I also got Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which I believe is like a horror mystery. There's a haunted house involved. That's all I really know. That's all I needed to know. Next is another book I recently read, and I'm obsessed with this series. Why'd you let me go so long without reading it? Torch Against the Night by Selva Tahir, which is the sequel to An Ember in the Ashes. Y'all really let me go this long without reading these books. Are y'all... Why don't y'all love me? I received An Ember in the Ashes for my birthday last year. My friend Ashley gave it to me for my birthday, so thank you, ma'am. I have her completely to thank for my love for this series. I read the first book. I think I read it. Did I read that for the Asian Readathon? Yeah. And I just read this month for the Disney-a-thon. I love these books. I love watching these characters grow. I made sure to read it this month because this month is Torch month for the Ember read-along that Penguin Teen is doing. Next month is Reaper at the Gates. I have to get that book. I want the paperback, but the paperback doesn't come out until September 1st, so I'm gonna wait to get it. I'm obsessed. I'm in love. Elias deserves the whole world. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Oh, while I was letting my battery charge, I realized that I didn't mention that in May I also got All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. Read that in June for Pride Month also. Really enjoyed it. So we are in the middle of my June haul, right? So the next 3 books are all from my Amazon wish list. I know I said that I've tried to avoid shopping from Amazon, but my wish list is still there and thriving. I received these next 3 from my wish list. I still don't know who they're from though, so if it was you, please let me know so I can properly thank you. There was no name on the note. So we have The Complete Fairy Tales of the Brothers Grimm, and this is the Wordsworth edition. I just love the cover of this, the coloring on it. This is a bind up of the Brothers Grimm. I love Grimm's fairy tales. We have The Complete Fairy Tales of Hans Christian Andersen, another Wordsworth edition. And then we, oh my bad, sorry, have the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe. And I've said it once, I'll say it again, I've said it a million times, your girl's a hoe for Poe. So I'm just really excited. We know I love fairy tales, and I love like the dark original versions of the Grimm versions of fairy tales. I love Poe so much. I just ordered a Poe blanket, and I can't wait for it to get here. Like I said, I'm already in spooky season. I'm already in fall, so we're gonna have to deal with that. If you too are a hoe for Poe, I do have an Edgar Allan Poe candle on my Etsy shop, and at the moment I am running a sale up into my birthday, which is September 5th, in case you wanted to know. Hop on that. So whoever sent this, thank you I love you and I appreciate it so much. Also in June, that's when I got the Owl Crate edition of Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. Okay, the next two I'm putting together. They didn't come at the same time, but they're from the same series. And they are A Darkness Strange and Lovely and Strange and Ever After by Suzanne Dennard. I love Suzanne Dennard as an author, as a person, but also The Witchlands is like my favorite ongoing series at the moment. This is her first series. Something Strange and Deadly is the first book, and I've read that last year. Loved it a lot actually, and so I need to continue the series, and I wanted the complete set of the original covers because they have since gotten new covers. So I found these on, I think, biblio.com or something. They were like each less than $5. They were the library binding, but I took all of that off, and so I'm left with this. Really enjoying this series. I'm surprised because there are like zombies involved, and that's usually not my vibe, but it also takes place in Philadelphia, so that very much is my vibe. Okay, we are on the second pile of June books. So the next book was just a kind of spur of the moment whim pickup at Walmart. My mom surprised me, and because I was looking at the books, and she bought this for me, The Bromance Book Club by Lissa K. Adams. I've heard a lot of people talk about this book, so I wanted to try it out. I thought the concept was really intriguing. A guy trying to save his marriage by basically joining this book club with his friend, where they read romance novels to basically learn how to communicate with their wives. I read this last month also, I believe, and I have the sequel. My mom also recently bought me the sequel so I can see where what is his name, Mac gets up, what Mac gets up to with Thea, who's the main character, the wife in this book, her sister. So that's where that goes next. Okie dokie. Next book I got in June. I wanted to read in June for Pride Month, but I did not. So I'm thinking I might read this in September for Yonsei-a-thon. You heard that right. It's The Stars and the Blackest. The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Junauda Petrus. I love this cover, first of all, and this is another one I've heard such amazing rave reviews of it, and it sounds like it's going to be a beautiful story, and I just can't wait to read it. And it has won the Coretta Scott King Award. Love that. I think I might have ordered these at in the same order. I also got Conjure Women by Afia Atakora. This cover is gorgeous. Also, still trying to read more adult books. This just sounds really, really good. A mother and daughter with a shared talent for healing and conjuring curses are at the heart of this dazzling first novel. Yes. Okay, so I know I already talked about this book, and I know I already mentioned that I have a total of 6 copies, but I just want to talk about this one. My final copy of Redemption Prep finally showed up, and I'm only mentioning this because this is the signed one. Where is it? My little note from Sam, who I absolutely adore. Moving swiftly along, we have another gift from my Amazon wish list, and it's Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown, the remarkable story of a teenage wizard, and this was sent to me by my friend Alex. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Oh, Alejandra. Sorry, I was reading her note. And this book is probably going to mess me up. I hear it's a lot heavier than like you anticipate going into it. I need to get around to this actually ASAP. So the next book I got was in my Fairy Loot for, I don't remember which month, because Fairy Loot was very behind with the COVID delays and whatnot, but I received Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashadoust in whichever Fairy Loot, and the Fairy Loot edition is so beautiful. Also, Girl Serpent Thorn sounds like it's going to be so good. It sounds like it's going to be so good. It's an original fairy tale with, like, based on, is it Persian mythology? Am I right? Where the main character is a princess that's poisonous to the touch. Absolutely. Okay, so next is actually the book that I'm reading right now, or trying to, and it's Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee. This cover is everything, it's so beautiful. Sorry. I'm only 20 pages in. I've been trying to read this book for like 3 days now. I think part of it, there was 2 days where I was like trying to finish with my hair. I just need to sit down and actually focus on reading this book. But because I just have high hopes for this book, and I hate when I go into one of my most anticipated reads and then I have a hard time getting into it, which is probably a lot of the time it's me. So I'm hoping this is another situation where it's just me. I need this book to be what I need it to be. I received another arc from Penguin Teen, and it's Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. The book, the final copy, was just released in June. I just think that's really pretty. I don't really usually read sci-fi, but this just sounded really intriguing. Main character wakes up from like this cryogenic sleep 1,000 years later than she was supposed to. So like all of her family is dead, and she's woken up on this other planet where they are treating her like this goddess, and she has to like keep up this ruse basically. That's all I really know. We're almost done. So the next book is nonfiction, and I haven't read a nonfiction book in a long time, but this one is a necessity, and it's Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mickey Kendall. Honestly, I need to read this book ASAP. Definitely like going on the roots of how the problems of white feminism, and basically how Black women have been the backbone of a lot of movements and then erased from them. So be on the lookout for me reading this. I'm probably gonna read this for Yonsei-a-thon also, because there is a prompt to read like a work of nonfiction. All right, so one of the final book that I bought and acquired in June is another one of my most anticipated reads of the whole year, and Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is the follow-up companion to Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which was that was the first book I read this year, was Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I loved it so much, and I loved this even more. This book is everything. Danny and Zafir are everything, and Talia Hibbert is gold, and I don't know how she's gonna top it with Eve's book, but I can't wait for Eve's book. Bless. And the final book that I acquired in June, the last book on this whole list, is the Owlcrate edition of Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. The Owlcrate edition of this book. Yes. That's all I have to say is yes. So, yes. Oh, and in case you were wondering, because I realized I forgot that I was doing this. This is my little spread for June for my hauled page. We have the little hearts and the By Pride flag colors. So that is that. Those are the books, most of them, that I acquired in the first half of 2020, January through June. We're halfway through August right now, so I'm thinking, I don't know, do we want this to be a recurring thing? I know people do monthly hauls. I don't know if I can commit to monthly hauls. So I'm thinking if I do another one, I'll probably do it for July through September. One, because my birthday is on the 5th of September, so I will probably be treating myself, treat yourself, for the month. It's almost my birthday. That's nasty. Anyway, whew. I did the math. There's 63 books. And of those 63 books, I read 17 of them. 18 if you count Forest of Souls. Because hopefully by the time this goes up, I will have finished it. Or at least be in the story. But anyway, thank you for watching all of this. If you did, If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down here so you can follow me and I'll follow you back, and I'll see you very soon.